Hello everyone, welcome back. This time we're here for Desolate reviews. Yeah, I don't really have much of an intro planned at all.
We are doing this before week one ends. Let's go, us. We managed to find a time.
Let's go. And we also have our special guest back with us again.
She garged on my knuckle till I sought her cure.
No, just why?
Okay, shut up. Okay, we can move on.
Yeah, rip
I had,
Flap,
okay, I had a
L
different
plus
thing.
ratio
I had a different.
Sorry, Flap, that's actually really mean of me to say.
I had a different thing planned to say, but I would have been bullied even more. So.
Okay, alright, well, let's just get started before this gets even weirder. Alright, so first up we have Queen's team, and this is a very Queen team, honestly.
Yeah, we have some classic Queen Pokemon like, Mega Mawile, Rotom Wash, I think are classic Queen Pokemon. No Lando T because Fish got it like 2 picks before, but if Lando T lasted, for sure Queen would have went Mega Mawile, Lando T, Rotom Wash, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Queen classic.
I like it.
Instead we have a Gastrodon and a Salamence instead of a Lando T. I think Gen 9 Gastrodon is kind of cracked.
Yeah.
But rocks, but spikes.
It's really good. I also think that, like, even though Salamence is a bit of, like, a weird mon nowadays, I think it works because you have such good breakers and other cleaners to where you can kind of force your opponent to forget about Salamence existing.
It's also just a nice, like, bulky Pokemon if you want to run bulk on it, but Intimidate, Roost, Defog, Toxic.
But going back to the breaking, like Mega Mawile or Shifu is just kind of gross to switch into.
Yeah, and then on the special side you have monsters like Spectre, Iron Moth. It's a pretty solid team, I'd say. It does feel, however, a bit underwhelming for a first pick overall, I think. Like, it just feels like a solid team, but I feel like that's a team you could have gotten, like, dead middle, you know what I mean? Or, like, back end. Usually, the teams that are, towards the front of the draft have, like, maybe, like, stronger S tiers or, like, something else to kind of make up for it, so, like, they tend to be, I think, more toughy, scarier. This is just, like, a really solid team.
Yeah.
So,
I remember Queen saw Mega Mawile got dropped because last season it used to be S tier. We dropped it down from S tier because of what was Mega Mawile doing in S tier in Gen 8. And she saw that and she's like, oh yeah, I gotta make sure I get that. So she got it round 1. Like, even though, like, there's literally another Steel Fairy that is still S tier that is significantly better. They got picked literally the next pick. But, I won't judge.
I also feel like maybe round 2 Spectre was a bit early, especially because with our Terror Rule, it's not as scary as, in other places. But I think we had it tiered at what, like 17?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because we initially tiered with, different Terra in mind.
I mean, to be fair,
so,
it did
like,
get Draining Kiss this generation.
Yeah, it's still very scary, but I feel like 17-point Spectre could have been, like, drafted later. But all of that aside, like, obviously this is still a very, very solid team. No real, I think, like, big flaw.
Yeah, I can't really think of any big flaw. I guess maybe you're a little weak to freeze dry, but that's kind of hard to, like, not be weak to.
Like, yeah, that's like every other team, and even then, there's an Iron Moth, there's a Mega Mawile, so it's like
it's really like a minor complaint.
So yeah, I think overall this is a very solid team, very Queen-like, and I'm sure she can do very well with this. Like, this is a type of team Queen usually pilots like an easy top 3 seed, and and then stuff happens in semifinals, and we never see her in finals, unfortunately.
Alright, anything else on Queen?
Will she break the curse this season?
Maybe.
Let's find out.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see her in finals. I think she deserves it. She's been like a top performer throughout CDLA.
Yeah.
So I do think that of anyone that deserves a championship, she's definitely like a top 3. in my books.
Well, I think there are people who made finals like more than once that haven't won a championship that I think maybe also deserve it a lot. I know Mike has lost twice in finals. Rog, I think, has lost twice in finals. Fish has lost twice in finals. Yeah, so it's like
only twice.
Yeah.
But Queen is always a consistent performer, so.
But yeah, she is a consistent performer, so I think she also deserves part of the CDLA pie. But yeah, we'll see how well this team does.
Yep. And moving on, now we have Chron with the Magirna team, and I just want to say first off, this seems like a fun team to use.
Yeah, you have some of the biggest Gen 9 threats: Annihilate, Dondozo. S-Packer not as much, I think, with our terror rules, because it's just straight up hardwall by pretty much any steals and bulky darks that can take +1 Dazzling Gleam. We should also do fine against it. But
go ahead.
I see a Terra Weavile in this team, and I think Terra Weavile is kind of broken.
Yeah.
It's one of the best Terra mons we have allowed right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think the last round Tauros is pretty damn good value.
Yeah.
One thing I will say though is that you're a little light on removal, so I could see spike stacking be annoying, but at the same time, some of your mons like Weavile, Blissey, Latios, they're fine with wearing boots, so I don't think it's it's not like a deal breaker, or it wasn't as big of a concern as it was for Mike's team, but it's just something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker. Definitely would have been nice though, because Latias is a great defogger, right? Probably one of the better ones, but you don't always want to bring defog on it, and it would have been nice to have maybe one other option, even if it's a lower tier spin or a defogger, because I do agree hazards here are annoying. Right.
Yeah. I think the round 3 Dondozo, honestly, I respect it a lot. It's kind of counter teaming against what a lot of other people might do, just because you have two of the biggest setup threats. Well, honestly, your entire team is just setup threats. So having a really good unaware mon, so that way the other people can't have it, was a smart idea.
Yeah, Dondozo is just an incredible Pokemon. Even outside of Unaware, it's just generally fat and hits decently hard, especially with Wave Crash, EQ and stuff. So, I can see Banded Dondozo maybe come and catch people off guard, claim a kill or two.
Yeah, this just seems like a bitch to prep for, honestly.
Yeah.
And
the only thing that we changed is probably just again, we said, another removal option, and yeah.
I also think that Chron is gonna be able to use Annihilate really well. I've seen him use it in, I think, Smogon Tour, and he's been very good with it. And not just running the same old boring bulk up set.
I mean, is it boring if it works? You know what I mean?
No, but I'm just saying that
winning is fun.
There's the mon can definitely do other things besides that, and I think he'll use it well.
Yeah.
Anything else to really add on Chron's team?
I mean, I think you absolutely hit the nail on it. It looks like a really fun team, because there's just so many mons that just set up and hit things really hard. Everything is it just looks fun. That's all I got.
Alright, are we ready to move on then?
Yeah.
Alright, next up we have Fish, who is responsible for sniping Queen, and that top 4 is just disgusting.
Yeah. And you know what they all have in common? Momentum. And in fact, it's not just the top 4. I think the top 9 mons in terms of point value all have momentum, which is very Fish-like.
Yeah, it's I think everything but Noctowl has momentum.
Yeah, because they either all have U-turn or Baton Pass, Flip Turn.
What is Mega Dance yet?
Baton Pass.
Baton Pass.
Oh.
Shoutouts to Div, by the way, with the Defense Pass in PWS, granting his team a forfeit loss, and I think they lost the series 3-4.
Oh my god. What else about Fish's team? It's definitely a very Fish team. You know, you got the mid-tier bulk that's like just fat enough to take every hit and get his threats in.
Yeah, and speaking of threats, he has Genesect, which is probably the second best S tier in this CDLA, history. Mega Diancie, one of, if not the best Mega, that is like not an S. Lendo T, one of the most reliable Pokemon, right? Sneasler, I think, one of, if not the best new Pokemon from PLA. Like, he definitely has threats. Very good terror users too, right? Sneasler, Noctowl could not have asked for better users. And I think in traditional Fish fashion, this is gonna come down to can he win before like he gets kind of bulldozed, because a lot of the time, if his bulk isn't able to withstand the hits they need to, like he ends up just being, run over by like one or two mons that are really, like good sweepers. So
to be fair, at least he has like reliable. He has, Fat Wish passing with Vaporeon. I think that really helps on this team.
Yeah, but he'll need to keep momentum going so that Vaporeon doesn't allow people to set up too much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's gonna come down to that. But hey, if keeping momentum is supposed to be an issue for this team, I don't know what else to say. There's a bunch of momentum, so I feel like he has the tools.
Yeah, and also like his support mons, they have a ton of annoying ways to stop setup. Taunt, Yawn, Memento, all sorts of shit like that.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see how well he does. He hasn't played his week one yet, so we haven't been able to see this team in action just yet. But we are filming this on Wednesday, and a few games happen. So for a few of these teams, we'll have examples of how they do, and so that's going to be interesting to see too, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Is there anything else?
I just get a feeling that this will be a season that Fish will do well, and maybe I'm jinxing him, maybe I'm not. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we'll see. Did you want to add anything there, Renee?
I think I'm good. Like it looks good. It looks like a very fit.
I think we lost.
Actually, want to say I really like Sorry, I like the Vaporeon, Incineroar, Uxie defensive backbone.
Vaporeon Uxie is nice.
And the double intimidate pivoting between Lando T and Incineroar, which are, I think, probably the two best intimidate users in the format. He's got really good type coverage on his entire team.
I think as well, he has really good steel breaking for Diancie.
Yes.
And I guess to a lesser extent Genesect, but Genesect doesn't really need, it just kind of does everything. So
he has really good ways to beat fires for Genesect as well.
Yeah.
Alright, I can't think of anything else really for Fish. It's just a good team.
Oh yeah, actually I did want to mention he also took Noctowl from Queen too. Not just the Lando T.
Yeah, he took Lando T, he took Noctowl, he was ruthless.
Yeah. All this for Flapple Gaming.
Don't get too
It's also funny because both Lando T and Noctowl were picked as the draft was going towards Queen.
Yeah.
Week 3 is going to be an interesting week.
The revenge game.
He's gonna have to deal with a lot of resentment, I think.
Alright, I can't think of anything else. Want to move on?
Yeah.
Alright. Next up we have Cable, and the first thought I have is what the fuck is he cooking?
I mean,
I see it, but I don't see it at the same time. It's a very Cable team where it's just enough jank with shit tons of threats to where it works.
Yeah, for me, first thing I see is no fairy resist, and there's Terra Steel King, but they can help a bit with it. But I think that can definitely be an issue in the long run, with fairy generally being very spammable, right? Moonblast doesn't have recoil that you can try to abuse or whatever. It's you'll have to just deal with that. The raw bulk of Pokemons like Screamtail and Quagsire can help a bit with it, but I do think if the very strong enough, like, I don't know, Specs Sylveon or Specs Premier Knight can end up being an issue. Mons like, I don't know, Clefable, for example, don't even need any like coverage, right? Can just run Mono Moonblast and then can run, like, I don't know, Calm Mind Cosmic Power. It just frees up like a move slot for a lot of fairy type, and I don't think that's something that's desirable, right?
Yeah. But at the same time, like Palafin, Zardex, Landoi, if you give them like one turn, they can just go out and win. So I think it's also
have,
very
like,
hard to
very
position your
scary
way
types
to do that.
So it's gonna be interesting to see how well things turn out. As of recording this, he played like his first game a few hours ago, and the Zardex and like wasn't able to really, pull the weights here. Palafin didn't come, so the game didn't turn out too well. But I'm confident that in the future, like, he can definitely make this team work. I think Cable is used to doing well with like teams that aren't super traditional.
Yeah.
I feel like for the longest time he would draft stuff like a bunch of like fire types, right? And people would go like, that's weird, but then he'd just make it work. And so, yeah.
I will say that
I'm excited to see how well he does.
In terms of base speed, you're a little slow if Whimsicott as your fastest. But, you have strong priority with Palafin, and you have Web, so it's not, and Sucker Punch with King Gambit, so it's not really a big deal, I think.
I think like Whimsicott Scrimtail as their fastest mons is okay. Like, yeah, Revenge Killing might be a bit hard, but you have Sucker Punch and Gambit. You have Jet Punch Palafin, yeah, so it's...
Like, Scarf Cleavor and Scarf Lando aren't unviable by any means, so
yeah.
You have good...
Like, you have good Scarfers, and, like, Whimsicott plus, what's it called, Scrimtail aren't slow by any means, and they can just paralyze stuff for you, right? Like, Whimsicott with, I believe it gets Stun Spore, and then I know Scrimtail gets T-Wave. So, like, I don't think speed is going to be too big of an issue. My main issue is really just, like, the defensive synergy, like, typing-wise. Again, Fairy being really strong, and so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays around that, because it might feel like he's always playing a game, like, against the clock, where it's like, if I'm not able to win in time, I kind of just get run over by, like, the Fairy type or, other offensive Pokemons.
Yeah. We'll see. I think he can still do well with this, though.
Yeah, I don't have any doubts about that. I think Kibble is a really strong player, and so yeah.
What are your thoughts, Darnell?
Really not much. Like, you kind of hit the nail on the head and everything I really had to say. Like, yeah, it's a solid team and it fits his playstyle.
All right. If nothing else, then I guess we're moving on. All right. Next up, we have my team. Do you want me to talk about it, or?
Yeah, you can give us, your thought process while you were drafting.
Right. So first off, I was like, I want to get Magearna, but then I saw I wasn't like first or second pick, so I was like, I'm not getting Magearna. And then for the longest time, I was between Naganadel and Pheromosa. Eventually, I just decided, I know how to use Naga, I'm gonna get it. And then from there, it was just kind of wait and see what made it back to me. Mega Glade made it back, so I was like, I'm not really a big fan of it, but I'm willing to try it again now with new tools with Sharpness Pre-Mega and Agility. So we'll see how that goes. Same thing with Torn T. Then at that point I was like, Torn T's like getting Slowking just for like reliable momentum seems nice. And creating a regen core of Torn T. And then I was like, I haven't used Mamogus in forever, so I wanted to get one of my favorite Pokemon back. I love Mamoswine. And from there I was like, oh shit, I need like a good steel type, and I've blown through like my entire budget, and then I blew through even more by getting Aegislash, which is another mon I haven't used before, and I'm like, oh shit, I really blew my budget. Now time to scramble with a bunch of Copium picks to see if I can fit together like a decent type backbone, so I don't get steamrolled by dragons and ghost types. And that's where I got like Tinkaton, Porygon, Suman Quillfish, Bronophan, and Torterra. So yeah, that's kind of the team.
Yeah. My thoughts on this team, I think obviously very scary stuff. Naganadel, I mean, the stats speak for themselves, right? I think they can see on the screen what happened in week
Yeah.
1.
It wasn't even Nasty Plot that won that game, though. It was Specs.
Mega Delayed, I think, needs no introduction. There's even been like a vote to try and put it to S tier, but we don't talk about the result of that poll. Torn T, I think it's the favorite Pokemon of the average draft player, it feels like. You see it in like every draft creation draft ever, and it's usually always paired with a Slow Twin, and guess what? It's the same thing here. No, you didn't like recreate the wheel or anything here.
Yeah.
This gen it got some fun tools like Terrasol to give it stronger blind moves, but also Bleak Wind. I think it's Bleak Wind Storm.
Yeah, Bleak Wind Storm.
Which is a very, very nice alternative to Hurricane. 100 base power, 80 accuracy. So on average, I think it's like 80 power on average, whereas Hurricane was like 77. So you hit more often, and so it just means on average you do more damage, which is very nice. Especially with the Terrasol boost. But if you're Terra, you also have the option of going Terra Blast to like not miss at all, which is very nice.
Yeah, and Torn is like one of the top tiers that was still allowed to Terra, so I can just easily run Terra Blast. And, like, I lose literally nothing by clicking Terra on it.
Yeah. It still has, because this is like an adage all cut news. It still has access to stuff like knockoff, defog, all the utility, taunt, U-turn. It didn't lose anything in that front. It still has Nasty Plot from last generation, so offensively it's like actually a threat now, right? Between Terrasol, Nasty Plot, and coverage moves like, I don't know, Sludge Wave, Focus Blast,
Grass Knot.
Heat Wave, Grass Knot, yeah. So I think Torn T is a very, very solid piece on this draft. Slow King, I mean, it's a Slow King. It still has Teleporter, so you don't have to rely on Shielding Reception, but Shielding Reception can be nice, reset weathers and stuff. But let's say your opponent has like a Hail team, you don't have to give it to them, you know what I mean? So that's always nice. Mamoswine is Mamoswine. The combo of ground ice against so many teams is just devastating. I got access to some funny new tools like Dice, Icicle Spears, and Rock Blast, which is part of the reason why you won, your one, right?
Yeah.
Dice, Icicle Spears, Aero wasn't prepared for it, and it just blew through a Yachiberry Hippowdon. It blew through a Moltres and stuff like that. So
defense.
Yeah, so very scary stuff. Aegislash I think is very interesting because it has the bulk to take on a lot of the top psychic types, because we have stuff like Deoxys and Deoxys attack allowed here, stuff like Mega Medicham that's very strong, and so something like Aegislash can put Deoxys attack in a very annoying 50-50, right? Of, if I stay in, I get sneak, but if I switch out, they can pursue me, right? And I think you have the bulk to live, with Cassibear or something, you can live a Shadow Ball from Deoxys attack, so you can turn that into even not a 50-50, where you just click Pursuit and there's nothing Deoxys attack can do. So I think that's very interesting here, and just typing wise, I mean, it checks so much stuff.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I got it over something like Skarmory or Excadrill.
Yeah, Ghost Steel is just crazy, and then the budget picks are all very good. I mean, Tinkaton, Rotom, Porygon, I think, should all be pretty popular. Low tier pick, and then Hisuian, Quillfish, and Torterra are there. They'll have their matchups surely at one point.
Yeah,
maybe.
I got Hisuian and Quillfish mostly just because it's a decently bulky dark type. It gives me some passive shitting. It's basically like regular Quillfish, but you have an arguably better a different defensive typing that helps with different types.
I wouldn't say necessarily better, because water does go crazy. But it's dark isn't a bad defensive typing and helps against ghosts that you were maybe a bit scared of before that.
Yeah.
So overall, I think it's a solid team. One problem I think you brought up is that your best Scarfers are Tornadus and Naganadel, which is not ideal. But both have strong Pokemon, so I don't think they're necessarily bad Scarfers. And like you shouldn't struggle revenge killing stuff between those two potential Scarfers, but also Iron Shard Mamos, Sneak Aegis Slash. I think you should be fine on that front.
I have strong priority to help compensate for that.
Yeah, it's like a more minor issue, I'd say.
I think the big thing I want to say is like the offense on this team seems like just really gross because like you already mentioned Mamoswine, but like I just think the combination of Mamoswine, Gallade, Naganadel, like these are Pokemon that not only get pretty good coverage, but I think they have like stabs that are generally really hard to resist both of them, except for Steel for Naganadel.
But
off the top of my head, it seemed. What's that?
But you
Fire
run
Blast.
fire coverage all the time, so it's Steel's
so
really
like
hard to check.
It's like even if you have one good check for one of the mons, you're not going to have a good check to every single mon on the team from an offensive standpoint. So I think, and because she has a very solid defensive backbone as well, or like not a really great, but at least an okay one, Slowking carries a lot of weight. It's not necessary. It's going to be very offensive games, like just from adequate plans.
This team definitely feels more offensive, and I think that's where it might bite you in the ass, where it's like some ghost types can still be scary because Porygon is like it's a one-pointer, right? It has its limitations. I think week 1 you were playing a Goldango, and that was very scary, right?
Yeah.
You didn't have the best Make It Rain answer or the best Shadow Ball answer. Luckily, it didn't come, which is surprising, but like that can maybe be an issue in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like strong ghosts that Porygon maybe might not be able to take on. We were talking a bit earlier about like Spectre. I think that's going to be a scary one because you won't be able to tell what. Actually, no, that's a lie. I was going to say you won't be able to tell what defensive typing it is, but that's not how Terra rules here. Terra works here. But just strong ghosts will be scary, especially if they have a strong secondary stab, like in the case of Goldango.
Yeah.
To hit stuff like Pilfish, Porygon.
And I think for closing thoughts, this is like. I like this team more than the team I had last season, and it's the first, I think, probably the team I've liked the most since like season 8, 7-ish, but I still don't think it's like the best team I've ever drafted. But we'll wait and see.
I think Tinkaton is going to be a fun Pokemon.
It already put in work,
Do not sugarcoat it.
No, I already said it already put in work, so I think it'll be fun.
Oh, yeah.
Alright, I think let's move on now.
Moving on. Speaking of S tiers going 5-0, am I right?
Oh wait, hold on. Can I actually add something real quick? Something I actually totally forgot to mention.
Oh.
I think like CDLA has like a big 3 S tier in Magearna, Genocide, and Naganadel. Those are the 3 that always perform consistently well. And Hazy is probably the best Naganadel user in our league, I would say. So I think she's definitely going to do very well.
That's the hope, at least.
But yeah, speaking of S tiers doing well, I think we have maybe a new contender for a top 3 spot. One of the scariest new Pokemon is added in Gen 9, especially because it is a lot to Terra despite being an S tier. We have Iron Valiant.
And first thing I want to say with Gryff, fuck you for sniping Treads and Arboliva and Samurott from me, but that's besides the point. This team is...
Damn. She's holding grudge.
This team is scary as shit. Valiant Dragapult is just evil to deal with.
Hisuian Arcanine is another Pokemon that's incredibly scary to switch into. And then you have options like Veil. You have Iron Treads for all the basic utility you'd ever want, like knockoff, removal, hazards. And then just a bunch of annoying Pokemon, right? Samurott sets spikes, Arboliva with like Strength Sap and Harvest like Citrus Berry. So Titan can be annoying in a Halo. Overall, just obviously it's clearly a very offensive team. So defensively, it's not the sturdiest. But does that really matter when like half the team here can just 6-0 you on a good day? Like. This team doesn't lack the support it needs for the offensive ones, like, at all, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of things that this team might struggle with, and I'm not really, like... switching into, and I'm not really coming up with anything.
I mean, I
guess,
think
like,
just any strong like Pokemon that can boost speed, like a strong Dragon Dance user or like Rock Polish user, can be annoying here because none of the ones here are super frail, but none of them are also like particularly real hero. Like, oh yeah, this is a wall. Besides maybe like Aaron Treads, right? So
I would say like strong ground types that can deal with like Arboliva could be a bitch to deal with, but I think this team's out for that is more so revenge it than
yeah, I
try to
think this
defensively
team
tackle.
shouldn't have trouble revenge killing a lot of stuff. Iron Valiant with booster energy can spawn it with a whole less speed boost, and that also helps it sweep if it wants to. Terra Fairy, Moonblast, or Terra Fighting close combat are incredibly hard to switch into. I think Valiant is really what like puts the team together, because if you ignore it, and I feel like if it was any other S tier, this team would have been I think not as good.
Yeah.
Like even if it would have been an S tier that's not as expensive, I think Valiant is, in what it does, really puts this team together because it's a Pokemon that can just win whenever. And so it just justifies all this like setup you have before that, right? So it justifies, your Velmore, it justifies like your spikes and stuff like that, which is very nice.
Yeah.
And so I think this is maybe Griff's season.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he already started off with a good start.
Strong 5-0 against the Season 10 undefeated Zeb.
Yep, and speaking of Zeb, I think we can move on.
Okay.
It's a cool team, that's all I gotta say.
Yeah. Next up we got the aforementioned Zeb, and again, I think this is like a decent team. It feels like a very draft player-y team,
Yeah, you
Besides
have
the Wood
common
Trio.
cores you see, like, Chron, Syra.
Don't shit talk Woke Trio.
It
Not while I'm
it
here.
deserves to be shit talked.
Wood Trio is probably the worst Pokemon introduced in Gen 9. Period. So, like, maybe it does deserve it. But yeah, Mega Metagross, I think traditionally Nestor didn't perform as well, but it won last season, so maybe it's, Metagross redemption arc.
I think it's been on the redemption arc for a while now.
Yeah, it's a very, very solid, all-around Pokemon. It's bulky, it hits hard, it's fast. Not much else to say. It's a strong Pokemon for sure.
I like the
has a very respectable special attack too, so it can make use of Tough Claw, Grass Knot, or like Hidden Pack too.
I like the Kyurem Syra. I always like the Kyurem plus Strong Electric combination. It usually works pretty well.
Yeah, and stuff Kyurem might struggle with, like bulky steals. You don't need to worry about them because you have Olas Great Tusk, one of the most broken Pokemon introduced in Gen 9.
Kyurem with Strong Electric is just we have KB at home.
Yeah. This, like I said earlier, this does feel like a very draft player-y team in that, like, everything kind of does its assigned role, and it does it well, but I don't see a lot of, like, random weird-ass sets you can maybe do on, like, actually, never mind, take that.
I don't know, I think Pokemon's like Mega Metagross, Great Tusk, Kyurem are all pretty versatile.
Yeah, the more I think about
Syra
it...
with Hidden Power is also very versatile.
Skeletor is also, like, decently versatile, so I take back what I said earlier.
I don't know about Skeletor. I feel like...
Skeletor,
no, I feel like on 90% of Skeletor set you want Torch Song, like Will-O-Wisp and Slack Off, so... maybe not the most... in my opinion at least, probably not the most, what's the word? Versatile Pokemon. But it's very good at what it does. With Unaware and its typing, it checks a lot of very specific threats. Pokemon's like Volcarona, I think, have like no way to beat it. Pokemon's like, Iron Moth and a bunch of other fire types, like, I don't know, Cinderace, will like struggle a lot with Skeletors, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, Pokemon's like, and then in terms of, defensive, Pokemon's Melodic, Mandibuzz, maybe on the more passive side, but both have ways to, deny setup. Melodic with Haze, And then Mendebus with like Foul Play. They also both have Momentum, which is nice because you can get Metagross, Grid Tusk, Curamin pretty freely. And then Gutter and Weezing gives you T-Slags, another Defogger. Tithing is very good. Dunsparce gives you Rocks. It's another Momentum user with Baton Pass. So
it's a good
overall,
one
I think, overall the utility I think here is very nice. And yeah, there's nothing this team is really missing in terms of utility, right? Like Hazard removal, you have Spin, Grid Tusk, Toedscruel, Defog, Mendebuzz, G-Wiz.
Yeah.
And then the Hazard, in terms of Hazard sitting, you have, again, Rocks, Toedscruel, Grid Tusk, and Dunsparce, Metagross. So,
I would say it's one of those teams that's like very solidly built, but I don't know why, it just doesn't feel like it has like that X factor for me. But I still think Zeb can do well with it.
I don't know. I think the first four are pretty good and versatile. To me, I think that's enough.
No, I don't really, you're not really understanding what I mean by X factor. It's just like, that's something that like makes me feel like, oh shit, this is incredibly broken to deal with, like to play against.
It doesn't have like your Genocides, your Magearna, your Naganadels, your Urshifu SS, like your Metagross is granted, I don't know if I really know, maybe things have changed more recently, but it's typically a Mega that has not performed very well in CDLA. I think there's one season where it was okay.
It's like the
It just won last season.
Last season doesn't count. I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know. I think Zeb will still do well with it. It's just, for me, I don't know. It's just something in my gut is just like, this feels a little off. I can't really explain it.
I think you guys are underestimating Mega Metagross and especially Grid Tusk. I think Grid Tusk.
I get what I was saying more so like explaining what I think she was going for. I personally really like the team. Like, this seems like a team that I could pick up and I would really enjoy. Like, I think it has really cool offensive mons, but with a really solid defensive backbone. It's some really fun new mons. I think you mentioned this already, but I think Hazard stack on this team looks really, really strong. And you have that with G-Weez, Toedscruel.
Yeah, it has pretty much every Hazard except Webs.
And I don't really think you need Webs with what you got.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good shit, my guy.
Yeah, I do like it. Alright, anything else, or can we move on?
We can move on.
Alright, next.
So, okay, speaking of the champion, we're on a roll with these transitions. The one who was able to make Mega Metagross shine, the Season 10 CDLA champion, and I think the youngest member in the server, we have Aero.
This feels like a very Aero team. Even though he only played for one season, it's I'm already seeing a lot of similar mons to last season: Keldeo, Tangrowth, Moltres, and I think it's a good team. It's very scary to deal with. And
I think by the look of this team, you can tell he's a Natdex player.
Yeah.
Pokemon's
out of Natdex.
Tangrowth, Goldengo, mons like that, I think, are Natdex staples. And this team is just built like any old OU team. I think Gen 6, Gen 7 OU, more like Gen 6. I think it's this team looks a lot like a Gen 6 OU team you'd have with Pokemons like Keldeo, Tangrowth, Moltres, like you mentioned, that became, just Aeromons in the span of 2 seasons. And then you have very, very scary new mons in the Roaring Moon and Goldengo. And I know I say this a lot, but those two are probably two of the best Pokemon to have come out of Gen 9. There are a lot of good Gen 9 Pokemons, I've realized,
Yeah.
A lot of best Pokemons to have come out of Gen 9s.
The thing I like about this team is that even though he has some defensive mons, that middle part, Tangrowth, Moltres, DoD, Hippo, they're all leaning towards the defensive side, but none of them are passive.
Yeah,
they can all do
Hippo
things
has a super respectable attack stat. I think in your game against Aero, Stone Edge did way more than half to your Tornadus, and so it kind of meant you had to play a lot more conservatively with that Tornadus, whereas usually you want to switch in a lot, just click U-turn. Hippo hitting hard kind of stopped that. Tangrowth, I think, has more attack and special attack than Spadef. It's by no means passive. Moltres' highest stat is literally the special attack, so yeah, like you said, those are not passive Pokemon. Deoxys is maybe like the main one that's on the more passive side.
It's a fast taunter.
But yeah, it's fast, it has taunt, and if you're not ready, it has good coverage, and so if it has investment, it can catch you off guard. It also has like good setup options, so it's definitely a mon you have to keep an eye on. You can't expect to just be like, oh yeah, I can just ignore it because it's a defensive passive Pokemon.
I also think that the Saland is a good pickup, just as another way to revenge kill or clean games for basically no commitment whatsoever.
Yeah, because it's pretty cheap, it's pretty hard, and like can function outside of Sun pretty well too. Has stuff like Intimidate and a decent bulk, so it can check some stuff. It's a Pokemon I've enjoyed a lot in the past.
One thing I will say is that it is a little weak to bird spam, but in the sense that like, only if the bird has like Heat Wave or a way to touch Goldango and Mega Mane.
I mean, to be fair, there's not that many types that, you know, resist flying.
Yeah.
Like, Steel, Electric are the main two. The only other one is like Rock.
Yeah.
And he has all three, so like
it's not really a big deal. I'm just saying that like
you can't ask more of him. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying it's like it's something I did kind of notice when prepping.
It's also because you have a whole ass Terra Tornadus.
True.
There is no other Terra Tornadus in the division. But yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's particularly weak to bird. He has like 3 bird resist, and it's like the 3 type that can resist flying. Like I don't think he could have done anything else. And like Goldango was a Pokemon with recovery, so it's like, what else can he do?
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
I think that speaks to more how broken Tornadus is. That like even though he had all these flying resists, Tornadus was still very good in this matchup. But yeah, I think it's an all-around very solid team, and I think he has the despite being the youngest member, I think he has the experience to make it work because he plays a lot.
Yeah.
And so
I definitely think he can do well this season.
I don't doubt that he'll bounce back. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Did he start I'm pretty sure he started pretty poorly last season, and they made a comeback all the way to like championship. So it's like, do not sleep on the kid.
Yeah. Alright. Are we ready to move on then?
Yeah.
Alright.
I don't know if you already mentioned it, but I think Terra Keldeo looks really, really nasty.
Oh yeah. Like Keldeo, like Hydro Pumps are gonna be a massive pain in the ass to switch into.
Yeah, that's true.
I also just really like the FTS score of like Tangrowth, Moltres, Keldeo. Like I really like Moltres, in case you didn't already know that. But
nobody asked.
I think like having good pivoting.
Move on. Nobody asked.
I already moved on to Cinna's team.
I hope
You hope what?
don't worry about it.
Okay. Next up we got Cinna, and again this is a very Cinna team. He's an old boomer, so he's pretty comfortable with drafting the few things he likes.
Yeah, he's definitely not a master of innovation. Let's say it like that.
He's a big Zama Blacephalon Slowbro enjoyer.
A wise member of the server once said, Cinna has 2 emotions, Zamazin to sea or I hate my wife's cooking, and here he chose Zamazin to sea, it seems.
Yeah.
It's become a Cinna staple, and then Slowbro, I mean, Cinna would probably sleep with Slowbro if he could. And then, yeah, this is like a very Cinna team. Defensively, it's, I think, extremely scary. Ting Lu, good god, why does that Pokemon exist?
Yeah, and then you have 2 Wish Passers into it. And like
Dino arguably like
passing.
Dino, I think, is arguably the best Wish Passer because it doesn't have to choose between like, you know, oh, do I like pass the Wish and then weaken myself, or do I protect and then like I can't Wish Pass? It has regen. It doesn't care. It can just Wish and switch out.
Yeah.
With like.
He has the whole regen core with Slowbro as well, and I think those two work really well together.
Yeah. And then like just typing wise stuff like Mega Altaria, Slowbro, Tinglu, like there's I think no like easy type combination that does very well against those, I don't think.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
And then like offensively, Terrablacephalon is an absolute unit. Zamazenta, with now having access to moves like Stone Edge, is an absolute unit. Thunderous Tyrion is good. I don't know what it's doing here. I feel like it feels unnecessary, but it's also just like not a bad Pokemon, you know what I mean? And it's not like it's redundant. It's just like this team is already so good. It's like just extra there.
Yeah. And then like Mega Altaria, you do have to respect DD sets, or else you're gonna get swept by them.
Yeah. One thing I will say is it would have been nice, I think, to have another hazard setter besides Tinglu, because I think Tinglu being as bulky as it is, it would be nice to be able to run, you know, Rest Talk, and then if it's forced to run Rocks on top of it, it makes, I think, Rest Talk harder to justify. But if he had like another rocker, then he could justify, you know, Rest Talk like EQ for Chop, for example.
I mean, to be fair, it is one of the best hazard setters in the game. To be fair.
Yeah, but it would be nice if he could do something else. Like if he could have hazards and have Tinglu do something else because of just how good it is. I think like Rest Talk is the future of the Tinglu meta because of how like you have to 3-hit KO that thing. How do you do that? It has access to Whirlwind to like stop setup, so it's like such an incredibly hard Pokemon to like kill, and I really think, you know, being able to have it rest more often is nice.
I do want to mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mentioned this last for the other team that had Tinglu, but he has a very good Wish Passer in Audino that can pass off fat wishes to Tinglu. So like, while I think having another hazard setter would obviously be great, just to alleviate some pressure, even if it doesn't come that much, just the presence of having a secondary rocker, even if they're cheaper, is still nice to have. But having a Wish Passer means that not being able to run Rest Talk isn't the worst thing in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I just think like some of the easiest way to deal with Tinglu is, you know, Toxic or like Chip, and Rest kind of just erases all of that.
Yeah, and I also want to mention Wish Path. I think that Wish Path with Zamasu is incredibly good. So having that as well through Audino is really nice.
Yeah.
Alright, style.
No, not really.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything either.
Two Fairies is kind of cool with Megal and Sylveon. And Sylveon is also a Wish Passer as well. So it's like having good fairies Zamasu is, I think, also really important.
Okay, so fun fact, initially the idea was to, because he picked up Mega Altaria in the Grace period, same thing for Audino. Initially the plan was to drop Sylveon. That's why he picked up Mega Altaria and Audino. But then like when we were talking during Grace period, he was like, you know what, I'm stubborn, I just want to keep Sylveon because I like the Pokemon. So I was like, yeah, you know what, fine, it's not the bad Pokemon.
Transfer.
Turns out week one he's playing Bool, who like we mentioned previously had 0 fairy resist. So I was like, oh, it's like Sylveon, nice. He did not bring it, as you can see on the screen. What's the point of keeping Sylveon on the team? But all jokes aside, please bring the Pokemon if you're gonna keep it on the team.
Maybe it's just there for moral support.
It's just there because Cinna supports Transred, and you know what? We like that here. Alright, we can move on. Alright.
Why do you think Keytrans are our mascot? Trans right.
Keytran's
that
not
one
a
really
mascot
shitty
anymore.
edit that Kevin made that one time.
It's been like 5 seasons that Keytran's not been the mascot, but it's fine.
Right.
Oh wait, I forgot. Oops. I think
it's fine.
More
let's move on. Let's ignore that.
Let's move on. This video's already we're already hitting 50 minutes.
Oh shit.
Holy shit.
Alright, next up we got Lechonk, who is a newcomer here. And
my goat!
yeah, he's the reason that Desolate finished ahead of Primordial finished ahead of Desolate. This seems like a team I would draft in Gen 7, like unironically.
Yeah.
I love Mega Scizor. I think Infernape's I really like Infernape, Nidoqueen. When I just started out in draft, Cradily was like one of my favorite Pokemon. Sylveon, I like Silvally. When I was younger and was starting out, I used Florges a lot more than I do now.
I feel like hanging out around with being around the biggest Florges hitter and just does that to you. Just use them on less now.
True. But I think in Gen 9, I don't think it's as bad because they got Baton Pass and Chilling Water. More so Baton Pass than anything, so you're not completely dead weight.
Still cringe, but it's fine. He has Shenpao and Basculegion, and I won't say the thing again, but you know what I want to say. Two very strong Pokemon. Basculegion with Terra giving it access to moves like Terra Blast, Ghost, and having adaptability is incredibly scary because it also has Wave Crash, which was initially a PLA move. There is not that many switch-ins to this Pokemon. I'd even go as far to say there is no real switch into this Pokemon.
Yeah, it's a very, very good breaker. And I think that's...
between Terrastall and the typing and the ability, it's insane.
Mm-hmm. And I will say that I do think that this team is a little lacking on breaking outside. Well, I mean, I guess you have Basculegion can kind of cover everything, but it's a literal line of Basculegion to break shit. Infernape, Nidoqueen, Shenpao, they're all strong, but they're not really things that, I feel like with Shenpao and Infernape, they're more so there to, clean or, get Chip on board.
Have you seen Banded Shenpao calcs?
Okay, maybe I'm just biased because I had an Iron Hands the one time I had to play it, so I had an actual check. But, okay.
Banded Shenpao is a unit. It can 2-hit KO, half the drafts.
Okay, you know what? Fair.
On here.
Fair.
Specs Latios is another Pokemon that can 2-hit KO half the drafts here. I don't think breaking is necessarily as big as an issue as you make it seem. I do think maybe Latios can be more matchup reliant, where in some matchups where they have a really strong Fairy or Steel, it can be harder, but Shenpao's offensive typing means it's super hard to deal with it.
I'm also just a Latios hater, so take my opinion with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Latios haters will not survive the winter.
Basculegion, I think, covers all your breaking needs, and like you said, Shenpao and Infernape are really good cleaners. Infernape probably one of the better Scarfers. And this team has a lot of very strong priority options between Infernape, Mega Sizz, or Shenpao, so revenge killing is also not a big issue here. So I think offensively this team is very well rounded. You have good breakers, good cleaners, good revenge killers. You have everything you'd ever need.
One thing I will say is that for your defensive backbone, I think it's just I like it except for the Florges, but I think now in Gen 9 it's not as bad because in Gen 8 and Gen 7 it would be a bit of a momentum drain, which I think that this team doesn't really appreciate. But with Baton Pass, I think you kind of now it's not as bad.
Yeah, or format probably has the best Florges you could ever have between Hidden Power, so you have Hidden Power Fighter for Steals, they're not just hard walled, and then Baton Pass for momentum and stuff like that. Could be worse. But yeah, Mega Scissor, Florges, and then Nidoqueen Silvally I think is fine. You shouldn't struggle to find answers to most offensive Pokemon, I want to say. And I think as long as you don't auto-lose to any Pokemon, you should have the offense to be able to win the game in the long run, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, overall, solid team. And, fun fact for the Desolate people who think Lechonk was a paid actor, he was actually sent from Primordial. He used to be in Primordial, and then we switched him. So he may or may not actually be a paid actor.
Oh God, shut up.
CDLA is rigged, you heard it here, folks.
The full story is that Lechonk and Chickadee from the other division both applied under the team name Toronto Staraptor. So when we had both of them in the same division, we were like, that might be an issue. So we swapped Lechonk and Raku, who is now in Primordial. And the rest is history.
And then neither of them ended up using that team name, so...
Yeah, so the swap was useless, and so you can leave a comment down below and tell us if you think he's a paid actor or not. We
This is
definitely
the comment
read
of
the
the day.
comments always. Yeah.
Question of the day: is Lechonk a paid actor?
And yeah, we do read comments. I've seen your comment, AJ, on the last video. You're the only real one.
No, there's some other real ones. Now.
Oh, really?
Me too. Let's shout them out right now.
Let's go.
No.
Oh yeah, let's shout out the real ones. The ones that
I think
did the thing.
Banana and Rog are real ones. Circle too.
Let's go.
So shout out those.
Oh,
guys.
and we got the 5 likes, so we can actually publish this video. Let's go. I forgot about that.
Oh my god. Alright, are we ready to move on now?
Wait, Rog isn't a real one. He has more than 3 hours on the gear. Unfortunate. I always knew.
Unfortunate.
But yeah, we can move on now.
Next up we have Blind Messiah, aka Sean. And this is like gross.
This is a team, yeah. Some of these teams, I think we usually say like, oh, that looks like a Gen 7 team, a Gen 6 team. This is definitely a Gen 8 team, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Starting off, you have Chi-Yu, and then as you go down, you have ones like Iron Hands, Gryphon, Spite-Ups, a decent amount of Gen 9 Pokemons, and you have Pokemons like, Lechonk, who have been buffed this generation, Corviknight, who's like more popular than ever this generation, so this is one of the Gen 9 teams for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where to really start. It's just like, for one, you have insane breaking.
He might have the single most offensive Fire Water Grass core. Between Shell Smash, Mega Blastoise, whole ass Rillaboom, and the whole ass Chi. I don't think he can do better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a team.
And then there's just a whole ass round 4 Lechonk just chilling there.
I don't know how Desolate let that happen.
I don't know either. I think I was thinking about it, but
sister,
then
Chris, you're in Desolate.
I was thinking about it, but then by the time I was like, oh, maybe I should just get Lechonk because why not? It was already taken, so it was sad.
It would have been crazy if they let you get Tornty Lechonk round 3 and 4.
Yeah. That's so much shit.
But yeah, besides the offense, I mean, like, even the defense here is incredible, right? Corviknight is super solid. Lechonk, I mean, everyone knows what Lechonk does. And now it does even more with momentum, hazards, what it didn't have in the past. And then other Pokemons like Iron Hands are incredibly bulky. Cinna that gives you nice utility with Glare, Rocks, Sand maybe?
Copium.
I doubt it though.
Yeah, I don't think you really need the Sand Spit for anything here.
Yeah. And then you have fun utility options, right? Gryphon with Encore, Knockoff, Taunt, U-Turn, Spite-Ups with Webs, and again, we talked about it last video about why, Gryphon is 1 point and probably should have been higher, but he got it for 1 point, so good for you.
I will say, I think that the speed is like a little, like the tiniest bit copium, and just like Gryphon and Aerodactyl are kind of like, oh, I'm not really that afraid of them most of the time, but at the same time, you have really good priority in Rillaboom and Comfy.
Rillaboom, Comfy, yeah. But yeah, I can see how revenge-killing some Pokemon can be maybe harder. For example, you're Naganadel, right? Doesn't really care about Draining Kiss, doesn't really care about Rillaboom, so if Slowking gets weakened, I think Sean is definitely sweating a bit.
Yeah,
but
or
he has
something like Kartana as well. Like, just reverse it with Corviknight instead of Lechonk.
Yeah, like Scarf Kartana, or like Kartana getting a speed boost can be incredibly annoying. But this has, some tools to help with this, mainly Web Spite-Ups, and also just like you said, very strong priority. Like, I think it's important to mention that it's not just strong priority. You have stuff like Rillaboom, which is maybe the strongest priority, right? The Rillaboom Grassy Glide.
It's not copium priority at all. It's like, this is part of the Mons toolkit that you actually use all the time.
Yeah. So overall, I think looks like a very solid team, very fun team to use. I think Pokemon like Chi-Yu are incredible, and so he hasn't played yet, but I'm excited to see how well he does.
Same. And knowing Sean, he's a pretty good player. I think he'll do well with it.
Yep.
Alright. Anything else?
It's cool.
Alright, now we got Lucas, who's a CDLA debutant, and he decided, you know what, fuck it, Psy Spam. And
I like this. I like that.
honestly,
That's
I can't even blame him.
I had a similar idea for one of the seasons. There you probably remember a season where I wanted to draft triple fighting type in my first 3 rounds with
Yes, I
Zamasu,
remember that. And then I
Mega
stole that
Medichan.
idea.
And then Daruna stole that idea, and it's probably his most
easily the best season I've ever had. I tried doing Psy Spam my second season. That I had personal shit going on, so I dropped that season. But it was like Tapu Lele and I think Mega Alakazam. That's what it was. I think Psy Spam. It's not as good as it was back then because back then it was Gen 7, so it was
1.5.
Yeah.
But
but I think
at the same time, I think Lucas built his entire team around making it work because
yes,
the first 3 are
absolutely.
Psy Spam mons, and then literally everything else is Pursuit Trappers or Steel Killers or other Psychic Killers.
Yeah, I was gonna say like I think it looks like a very strong team because like not only do you have good spot Psy Spam, but you have really good ways to deal with other Psychic types in Mega Tyranitar, Zoroark, you have your Mega. You have good ways of dealing with steel types that would be really annoying in Severus Quaquaval. You have good dark killers in Quaquaval. Or really, actually, Quaquaval, Yanmega, and Tapu Lele, of course. So, like, it's not only just Psy Spam with like, the best, like, the strongest Pokemon in the format in Deoxys Attack.
I'm surprised he got Deoxys Attack this late.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Because, like, what pick is this?
13.
12.
That is kind of insane.
Oh yeah, it is 12.
So, and then also getting Mew and Tapu Lele on top of that sounds really good. I think the one thing that I see immediately that kind of looks strange to me is doing Terra Buffalon instead of Terra Yanmega, because Terra Yanmega, like, Yanmega hits pretty hard in general.
Oh no, he got
Yeah,
supporting
it's
Yanmega. It's because he picked it up in free agency because Cinderace was dropped.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, but I think, like, that's a really minor nitpick. Quaquaval's is probably the best one here, regardless. So it's just splitting hairs at that point.
I was gonna say like he's really weak to things like ground spam, but I think with the way the team is structured, it's like very obvious in what it wants to do, and you don't really care about like type synergy with it.
Oh, also, fun fact: he initially had Necrozma on this team over Cinderace. I just thought it was funny to mention. He used to be the quadruple psychic types, and he downgraded to only triple psychic types.
I think I am really curious to see how Zoroark is going to perform in the draft. Hisuian Zoroark.
I think it'll work well, especially disguising as Lele.
Yes,
Similar speed tiers, and
You
take the
probably
same.
don't want. No.
Oh wait,
That's
Psychic Trade.
crazy. Do not disguise as Lele. They will be able to tell when the terrain does not go up.
I forgot. Disguise as Mew then instead.
But yeah, I do think no matter what you disguise it at, it's gonna be incredibly scary because, like, even if you disguise it as something completely random and you just send in your Deoxys attack, it's gonna be in the back of your opponent's mind, right? Is this actually Deoxys attack? Should I really go into my psychic type, for example? And I think making people doubt themselves is one of Zoroark's greatest strengths.
I think it works really well on a very offensive team because if your opponent makes the wrong prediction, switches into the wrong mon, they can lose one of their best answers to one of the top threats on the team. And with a team that is like has a very clear game plan of psychic spam, that sounds very powerful.
Yeah, I think that this team is like it's kind of like sort of like Rogs in that like it's built in a different way to like how most teams are normally built, so it's a little hard to judge against the other teams, but I think this one will be effective and at least fun to use.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest part here. I know Lucas doesn't like to super try hard, and that's the main reason he's playing here, because this is a more chill league, right? There's no relegation involved, there's no prize pool involved, so I'm excited to see how well he does, and I hope he has fun. I think that's the most important part.
So, anything else to add?
No, not really.
you should Terra Yanmega. It would make me happy.
Terra Yanmega would be a threat. Tinted Lens,
You should grab a
Buzz, and Air
grass
Slash.
starter. I think a grass starter here would be funny just to get the triple starter.
True. Alright.
But yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
Alright. Next up we have Bolivia, who has trolled us. Bolivia, the country, has trolled us in Geocaster many times, but not Bolivia, the person. And this is
This
interesting.
team looks a lot like a Gen 6 like OU team.
Yeah.
I think like the first four Volcanion are staples. Okay, maybe not Volcanion, but at least the first four are staples in ORAS.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's kind of funny to see them here 3 generations later.
I mean, even then you can say like, oh, it's kind of a Gen 7 like anti-offense team.
It's definitely less common in Gen 7.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a weird team. Like, I think earlier with Zeb's team, we were talking about like no real X Factor. I think that's what I feel with this team more so than like Zeb's team. Where it's like, there's nothing here that can just win game or something, right? I feel like this is a very like a more balanced team, and you're gonna play the balanced gameplay of weakening things slowly but surely.
Yeah, and
pivoting between like your Gliscor Clef and yeah.
You need to position things for like Serb or Darkrai or Lop to clean.
Yeah, because Lopunny is not gonna get a bunch of kills from full. Volcanion is not gonna get a bunch of kills from full. Like even Darkrai as your S tier is not gonna just claim kills. But you do have the tools to play this game. You have Gothitelle that can trap stuff. You have Garen Corsola that can take hits. Clefable can take hits. Gliscor can take hits, and all do like too good of a job almost at dealing chip damage. Very annoying Pokemons, and so it's gonna be interesting to see how well this team does in a metagame. I think that's generally more geared towards offense, right? With stuff like our Terror Rule, but also S tiers that are generally all more offensively oriented. We're kind of Ubers. I think full Ubers is a lot more defensive because of just the raw stats of stuff. They just have a bunch of both. I think we're kind of in this weird middle ground where our Ubers have higher attacks, but not necessarily higher bulk. So it makes the metagame way more offensive. And so this team is definitely different from what we usually see in CDLA, I think.
Yeah. I think one thing I would have liked to see is maybe like a more dedicated breaker, because I feel like Lop, Serb, and Darkrai, they all kind of... I think they're all really good at cleaning. But I don't really see something that's like, oh, I'm just gonna come in and like automate, like no matter what, I'm getting like 60-70% off and forcing you to like make that mod a sack. I would say
I think
closest is like
the balance versus balance matchup here can be really annoying if the opponent can just deal with Lopunny superior well, and you're just not making progress. And I think they might be making more progress, and so
like the closest thing you have to a breaker is Volcanion. And while it's not as bad as in like other leagues where it's just like walled to help, where it's walled by Waters and Dragons, it is a little bit matchup fishy for breaking.
Yeah, like strong water types, strong dragons can be annoying here. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun team to watch, because like a lot of teams before that, we haven't seen this team play yet, and so we'll see.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Thurnia?
Cool Terramon, I guess. I don't really have a lot to say because it just looks like a team.
There's it is a team. It's like I don't think it's like one of my favorite teams, but I can see it work. Right? It has the tools to play the long-term balance game.
I think like this feels like a team like Hazy was saying earlier, where it doesn't really have that wow factor, that X factor. It just looks like, hey, here's some on the team, and like it seems like they synergize all right at the very least. But like I can't really say how I feel about it, because like this is like one of the only teams that doesn't have a dragon type. Actually, that's not true, but like it doesn't have a dragon. It's like a lot of very weird Pokemon with weird types, but like they're good Pokemon, and I'm sure like it'll be an alright team. We'll see that.
It's like a bunch of good Pokemon that do weird things together.
Yes, I think that's an alright. That is a way to put it.
Alright, anything else to add?
No, I think we can move on.
Alright, I'm just curious to see how it does. Next up we have Lucy. And,
I think this is a more balanced team than what we saw last season. Last season was full of X Factors, if you want.
Yes.
A bunch of just Pokemons like Shifu, Dracovish. Here,
it was
the
the most click buttons team I've ever seen.
Yeah, here the team feels a lot more balanced, but you can still see the buttons, right? Terra Psychic and Didi with Expanding Force. Terra Marowak, right? The buttons still do exist, but then the rest of the team is a lot more balanced. I think Zapdos, Teacher, and Prim is a very nice package that can deal with pretty much everything defensively and are nowhere close to being passive. And then mons like Klefki, Hariyama, Eldegoss also just all help with specific mons.
I think I would have liked to see a ground type on this team. Because your way to block Volt Switch is Lightning Rod alone Marowak, which usually doesn't want to run Boots. And if it is running Boots, then it's not very threatening.
Yeah.
And I think as well, it would help with killing steals. Heatran's a good steal.
And Marowak, I think, are fine against steals.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking more so that
Hariyama.
they can be kind of caught up. You can catch them off guard pretty easily, but just running ground coverage.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't think steals are going to be too big of an issue. Zapdos has a very good matchup against most steals. Protean Meowscarada has low kick for most steals.
That's fine.
Primarina hits them very hard, usually with water moves. And Didi has fire coverage. So I think overall, it's fine. Yes, some of your mons can be annoyed by steals, Meowscarada. If you're facing a Scissor, for example, where low kick is not super effective, then you can struggle more. But Latios has fire coverage and Didi has fire coverage, so other mons that would struggle with steals, I think, have ways to deal with them. So it's not the biggest issue here. I think being able to come in on Volt Switch easily definitely would have been nice here.
Yeah.
What's the consensus on the Terramons on this team? I don't know how to feel.
I think it's an interesting play. I think for the most part, what people have done is one high to top tier Terramon that's kind of the main Terramon, and then a secondary one. I think the idea here is to have two mid-tier Terramons, but both are still very threatening, and so you can bring both to a game and have the opponent play this guessing game of, I don't know who's gonna Terra, right? I think this guessing game doesn't exist as much on the other team because, for example, let's pick Zeb's team, for example. He has Kyurem and Toadscroll. I think you know what to expect. I think,
and
Dragon Kyurem, is probably going to be the Terramon, and then I will not acknowledge Torture as a Pokemon. Kyurem is going to, Terra Dragon, and then, Toadscroll is going to stay grass ground. There's no real mind game. So I think that's an interesting play, and also, I guess the only other good Terramon she could have went with is Meowscarada to fire off stronger flower tricks. So I think that's an interesting way to do stuff, and we'll see how it does.
Yeah.
I can agree with that. Yeah, I think at first it was kind of strange, but I guess aside from Meowscarada, there isn't really a really great option other than that. There are other okay options. I could see Primarina working all right, but I think Marowak
can be a strong Pokemon.
Works pretty solid.
Yeah, I think it's one of those teams where it's I think it'll be better in practice than it looks on paper.
I can agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, with Primarina, your best secondary user would have been Eldegoss. So it's if I had to choose between Primarina, Eldegoss, or Marowak and Didi, I think Marowak and Didi overall is better. Even if individually, maybe Primarina is better than Marowak or Didi. I can see maybe some changes to the latter half, Klefki, Hariyama, Eldegoss, that might change to include a ground type or other utility. But overall, I think it's still a very solid team. I like the top 5-6 a lot.
Yeah.
And then Megaladius too, obviously. We can move on.
Alright. Next up we have Flap. And it's a good team.
I think it's a lot of very scary individual piece. Like, Mega Medicham is Mega Medicham. The new Greninja is interesting, right? Having now access to like new Battle Bond and Protean, like it creates some mind games. It's gonna, we'll see how that does. It's already 3-0, so it seems to be going well. And a Morris, I think, is incredible.
Yeah.
Having access to all that coverage as a strong Moonblast clicker is insane. Because you have essentially every move you'd want to touch steals. Focus Blast, Mystical Fire, Earth Power. What does it get? Earth Power.
Superpower.
Like, yeah, contrary superpower. So, like, this is a Pokemon that will not struggle with steals that much, I don't think, right?
Yeah.
Because you have some Pokemon like Togekiss, for example, who have Flamethrower, but then they'll struggle with steel types that don't care as much about Flamethrower, right? Like, I don't know, Heatran. But with this one, you can just pick the coverage that does best. Oh, I'm playing Heatran? Earth Power. Oh, I'm playing, I don't know, Skarmory instead? Mystical Fire, right? And so, I think that's very powerful. Luckily, this Pokemon doesn't have access to any momentum, so no Baton Pass or U-turn, which is nice if you're trying to deal with it. And so, like, that's keeping it a bit more in check, but I do think this is one of the better Pokemons, and I think we might have made a mistake by allowing it to Terra, but luckily it's not Terra here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like,
when I say luckily, it's for the rest of the division.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if Flap wanted to be a real menace, he would have Terra'd an Amorous.
Flap, do not Terra and an Amorous. You hear me? Do not. Whatever you do, do not. That would be a huge mistake. Do not do it.
So true. Keep the
and also don't Terra Rat. Don't Terra the Rat as well.
True.
But yeah.
It's like, I kind of agree with what you're saying, Kevin, is that, like, it feels like a lot of strong mons individually, but together it fits and it doesn't fit at the same time for me. I can't really explain why.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird team, I think.
I think, like, if it had some sort of Wish Pass or, like, one of your more defensive mons had reliable recovery besides Appleton, which I don't see coming to a ton of games, I think then I would have liked it more.
Also, I think, to be fair, I think that was literally Flap's philosophy. When he was, I think he was literally just going, I'll draft them on, like, I want when it gets to me, like, pick by pick, you know what I mean?
That's fair.
So I think the team reflects that a bit. But, like, as we can see with the record, I don't think it's going to matter if the mons individually are doing well, right?
Yeah.
And now we're claimed 3, Greninja claimed 3, and they didn't need to work together. They just did their thing. So, yeah.
It does look like a Click Buttons team, and Click Buttons teams are okay in my book.
Yeah, it does look like a fun team to use too, right? As much as I think we're trying to stay objective, I think teams that look more fun, I think we tend to like them more, and so they're more likely to be picked by us as, like, our favorite teams. And so I think that plays a big role too.
Yeah. Anything else to add?
That's about it for me.
Alright. Next up we have Crow, who's our final.
I was Zebstrika picked first. Leave a comment down below.
So it's a power move to flex on a particular player in this division that has a name that may or may not start with Zebstrika.
Leave a comment down below what you think.
Who you think I'm talking about? Yeah. I think round 1 Zebstrika is a power move. You're telling Zeb, you're not a real fan. If you're a real fan, you would have drafted it first. I'm a bigger fan, and Crow kind of forced Zeb to change his name in the server because he's not real. He's not a real one. It is what it is.
Woke trio him down.
Shut up. But besides that, like, if you ignore the Zebstrika, this just feels like a Gen 8, like Gen 8 team. Like, I can see on ladder.
Bikini, Finny, Pharaoh, it's super standard. There's a bundle in there, right? Some of you might have missed it because it's kind of like tucked in between a bunch of ones. But yeah, it's like a pretty standard in a team with a bundle in there.
Yeah.
One thing I will say about this team.
One thing I
I'm
will
not a
say
fan
about
of
this
the Terra
team
picks
is-
too. I think I talked about it on the last video where it's like I wish the Terra the Garchomp because I think it's one of the better Terramons. Same thing here. I don't know why neither of the Garchomp teams Terra the Garchomp. I think like Terra Dragon Dice Scale Shot is incredible on SD sets. Terra Ground EQs are incredible, and so it would have been nice to see those, especially because I feel like here you don't have like another really good Terra user, right? I think in Div's case, I can see the argument for the mons he actually Terra'd, right? Cerulege Moltres. Here, I feel like there is zero reason to Terra Reuniclus. Part of the reason why Crow might have Terra'd Reuniclus might be because they didn't know the Terra route. Because Reuniclus definitely feels like more of a Terra into any type Terramons, right? But yeah, if you're listening, Crow, your Reuniclus can only Terra into a Psychic type, so I don't think that helps you that much. And so I'd change it if I was you, but maybe Crow just wanted to Terra Zebstrika, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because Terraing Zebstrika does deny the Terra Chomp.
I think you're pretty base for picking up Slitherwing. The only person all of CDLA to pick up Slitherwing. If you don't
think Slitherwing is shit.
If you don't like
Slitherwing,
Slitherwing, fuck yourself.
I don't know if it's like that.
But no,
good, but I really
seriously,
think-
I really like the offensive core of like Garchomp, Victini. I think we've seen this in seasons past, and it's always been very powerful.
Yeah, it's pretty core. I've seen it a few times.
Yeah, with the Iron Bundle sitting in the back, it just looks very, very threatening to switch into. Finny's, I don't know how to feel about terrain here,
I think
because
Misty Train works.
it works okay because like Garchomp doesn't want to get burned. Garchomp also likes running its dragon type moves, especially
Yeah,
tearing into dragon. So it's like a double-edged sword that needs to
Yeah,
be.
it is a bit of a double-edged sword. I do agree with that.
Yeah. Terra Unicus has already been mentioned, but that one's kind of weird. Violet Bishop is a thing now. I doubt that matters much because that mon probably doesn't really want to run it.
No, I don't agree with that. I think it does appreciate like a Violet one, like SD sets and stuff like that.
That's true. That's true.
But yeah, what I would do here, I think, to make this thing better is Terra the Garchomp and drop the Slitherwing because it's so bad. It struggles with like every poison type in the game, every fairy type in the game.
You have a Garchomp
type
and
in the game.
and the Reuniclus and
Yeah, it doesn't change the fact that you're
Ghost
paying
Killer.
what 14 for a Pokemon that struggles with 3 of the best types, right? Fairy, Ghost, Poison. Like, I don't know. Definitely not the fighting type I would have.
Alright, so yeah, we need to drop Slitherwing down to like 2 points next season.
Yeah, I do think Slitherwing was overpriced. I think we had it in the same tier as Buzzwole, but
No, it was
just
one
like
less than
Ross-
Buzzwole, I think.
no, it's the same tier as Buzzwole. It should have been less, I do agree, but as of right now, we have it as the same tier as Buzzwole, and I think Buzzwole is just better, like just raw stat wise, like the raw HP, raw defense lets us check so much stuff that like Slitherwing can't, right? Pokemon's like Weavile, Garchomp, a bunch of physical mons Buzzwole can deal with, Slitherwing can't. And so yeah. Like I think if you just drop Slitherwing for Buzzwole, the team is already better. But you can also just play around with those points to draft maybe a cheaper fighting type and upgrade some stuff. Don't know.
Don't listen to these lies. Anyways, it's a cool scheme. Like it's actually like, I think like again like because even if you don't do Garchomp, you could do Victini, and I think that already is a really
No, you
solid.
can't
Because
do
like
Victini.
Yeah, no Bikini
Oh,
has been
okay.
banned from Terra.
that makes sense. Yeah, I mean I already said I'm not in this season, so I don't know the Terra rules or what month it's banned on. Because yeah, I was gonna say that would be actually like disgusting.
Yeah.
I can't really think of much else to add on this. It's like, I like it, I don't love it. I think it's just, I don't really like regular Garchomp that much, and these are just like a bunch of mons that I wouldn't really draft besides like Reuniclus.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I would have liked this team more if like the Garchomp was Terra because I think it would have given the team a bit more oomph. But yeah. So I think that's about it for the draft reviews.
Yep.
And now it's the time where we pick our favorite teams. I started last time, so now one of you two start.
All right, Darren, you start.
All right, so I have like 5 in mind, which isn't. I'm trying to think which ones I like the most.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll list. Yeah, okay. So the one that immediately jumps out. Yeah, the ones that immediately jump out to me. I really like Cinna's team. A bit of bias there. I really love Zomazenta, but I think it's a team that like it's very Cinna team. Very good Terry user. Really solid defensive core and a really solid offensive core, and it just like looks like a fun team to use. There's that one. I think Fish's looks super scary. Like those are definitely my top 2. Or Fish is probably honestly might be my favorite one. Actually, thinking about it more, because like it's such an offensively strong team while also having such a strong defensive backbone and they're all mons that I personally really like. I think you have really good pivoting options. You have a really nice like intimidate core, really strong offense as well. Like it looks really good. And then I was gonna say I'm torn between Hazy, Gryphon, and Chron. I think they all look really good. I'm gonna go with Hazy. I think like it looks like a really fun team. I think its offense is very scary while also having really solid defense as well. Like the offense just even if they're not like the strongest Pokemon ever, I think they just synergize very well together because they all are mons that like have really strong stabs that are hard to like. It's hard to find resist for all of it. I think having like Terratorn is also really strong.
So what was it? So your two were Hazy, Cinna, and Fish? Yeah, okay.
I think for me, the first one I would want to mention is I really like Chron's team. It might not be like the built like to the point where there's no flaws whatsoever, but it seems like a really fun team to use, and it's definitely something I'd want to try at some point. Let's see. I also like Fish's team a lot. It just screams like a Fish team that will actually work. And he has a bunch of mons that I like as well. I like Incineroar, Uxie, Genesect, Diancie. Sneasler looks really fun. So, yeah. I also quite like Sean's team. It also feels like a very fun team in that you're just playing around with a bunch of new toys and just clicking the funny button and you're just watching something die more often than not. And yeah. I mean, I also like my team, Cinna's team, Queen's team, Aero's team. There's like a lot of teams here that I like. I think more so than Primordial, but I would say if I had to pick 3, it would probably be Sean, Fish, and Chron.
I also want to give an honorable mention to Chron's team. It's not one of my top 3, but there is a lot of mons I like here. I just would have liked maybe more hazard removal, and I know he's aware of it because when Cinna dropped Mega Aero, I know Chron thought about picking it up, but then he went my hazard removal is not nearly good enough to justify picking up Mega Aerodactyl. But I do like a lot of the mons on that team. I think like the first 6 are like just free, and then maybe I would have dropped a Spathra and then maybe downgrade Blissey to try and make points for a defogger. But overall, like I still very like the team a lot. My top 3 I think are gonna be your team, Hazy. A lot of mons I like, and like it makes sense. I helped you draft a bit. Like I think I introduced you to Funny Porygon. I love that Pokemon.
Yeah, I love Porygon too now.
Mega Desolate is a Pokemon I push for a lot. Torrentee is because I don't think you wanted really Torrentee. It's not a Pokemon you really debated, but I know I push for it a lot. I think a very good Pokemon, and so kind of makes sense that I'd like your team. You know what I mean? My number 2 would probably I say number 2, but like it's in no particular order. It's just 3 teams I really like. But the second team I wanted to mention is Queen's team. I like pretty much everything on Queen's team. Like, Willifed is but it doesn't matter really. It's, there's 10 other mods I like, so I think it's very well rounded, very good, very scary. Not much else to say. It's some of the most buff Pokemon in Gen 9 with Gastrodon, Spectrier, and then Iron Moth I think is one of the most fun new Pokemons I've used.
Same.
Yeah. And then speaking of most fun Pokemons I've used, my third team is gonna be Zeb. I love Gryphon. Another Pokemon I've enjoyed using a lot in OU. Skeletor is also very fun, and I think the team is well-rounded. And I also think Great Tusk is gonna be a Pokemon that people sleep on. It has a lot of utility, but it also hits super hard. Has booster energy, bulk up, rapid spin to boost speed. Like, this is a Pokemon that can, be more utility oriented. But if the opponent is not paying attention, you get a few speed boosts, and all of a sudden they're sitting there wondering how they're gonna switch into that monster. Like booster energy, CC can kill Corviknight, right? So it's definitely a Pokemon to look out for. And so, my top 3 is gonna be Hazy, Queen, and Zeb.
So then, who wins?
Zeb also has Rogue Trio.
He has a very nice 10-month team, I won't lie. Like, it's 10 very nice Pokemons. I just wish he picked up a Pokemon with his, leftover points. It's kind of pointless to have him just sit there.
Alright, so then, who wins it then?
I think something like a Toad Scroll would be really
Is there any
good.
Pokemon? I think Chron's team has been mentioned twice, I believe.
Yeah.
Chron and Hazy have both been mentioned twice, and I think Fish.
Same with Fish.
Okay.
I think I also gave shoutouts. I gave a shout out to Queen as well. So
I think it's Hazy and Fish because both me and I mentioned them both as my top 3, and then both of you mentioned one of them. Whereas Chron was just a shout out from two of us.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
So I guess this basically just says Desolate. We like a lot more of your teams than Primordial. We're a lot more divided with our opinions than Primordial.
Yeah. Definitely
I
more
think
divided.
this division definitely looks a little bit stronger, but we will see.
I don't know. I feel like for me at least, if the choice was more obvious in Primordial, it's just because I like those teams more. Like the 3 I picked, Sirkill. It was Sirkill, AJ, and Will. I think I like those teams more than the ones I picked in here. But I do feel like here it's more the team seems more even.
Yeah.
There's a lot of teams here I'd consider.
That's going to be it for today, everyone. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.
The notifications
comment.
you never get.
Yeah, the
You actually
notifications.
get perks for subscribing. You get these analysis video earlier. We didn't ping initially when we first posted the Primordial video.
I mean,
because it was late at night.
Yeah, I uploaded it.
But
finished rendering at 1 a.m.
Yeah, but hey,
And
Quinn, who was subscribed, got the video in his sub box, and he was able to watch it, before everyone else. So
And if you subscribe to our Patreon, we will post feed pics.
No, I don't even have a Patreon. He's just lying.
Yet.
No, I'm not making that.
But yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next season. Don't forget to subscribe to get them in advance. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.